He FaceTimed me last night, totally tuned up. It was like 6:30 here, 10:30 there.
What a time to be alive. I just saw his face on the Guinness thing.
Yeah. My daughter couldn't comprehend that like his name was also Jordan. She couldn't get past
unbelievable. Oh, my buddy Mo, him and his wife came over. They have a baby, 8-month-old baby named Jordan.
Yeah, boy.
Girl.
That's a nice name. A-N or Y-N is the question.
A-N, like, because Michael Jordan, he's
Right.
a Chicago. They're both Chicago people, and that was the lock to be the name.
I got done with it. Added the Y, real millennial shit. I like it though. It's a nice name.
I think it looks good.
It does. But when everyone thought it was when I said it was Jordan with a Y and they thought it was Jordan, like Jordan Alvarez, it's like, no.
Baby looks different.
I would never culturally appropriate. All right. Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Live Before Lock. Monday, 3 games. What a weird one. Is there, by the way, is there a reason that there's only,
it's Canada Day. Hey, hey.
What is it?
Congratulations. It's Canada Day.
I mean, that can't really be why there's only 3 games.
I don't fucking know. I have no clue.
And that could be it since Thursdays. There
you go. There's
usually teams. Is every team playing on before the
July?
July?
Are 15 games. So. Already saw it.
That would make sense. That would make sense. Yeah. All right. So give everyone the off day on Monday and not on Thursday. All right. There we are. Thanks.
Yeah. Nobody cares about baseball in Canada Day.
No. Like I could understand if it was Canada Day and there was regular season hockey going. You could make just get all the Canadian teams playing. But even so, that would be dumb. We're not.
Yeah, they can't even win a Stanley Cup, so the entire country is just.
We're not catering to the Canadians because they have 6 hockey teams.
Does Florida give a shit about hockey? Because I think they've won like a bajillion Stanley Cups in the last couple of years. Between the Tampa Bay Lightning, they won back-to-back.
I was going to say that was Florida's first ever.
Yeah, Florida Panthers. But I'm saying the state of Florida. Like, for that to be the hockey mecca and not Canada, that's not ideal.
It's kind of great, though. It's like a big fuck you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, down in our hot and humid Florida, where you couldn't get ice if you tried.
The hockey ice capital of the world. And also, I believe the best American player came from Arizona. Austin Matthews, isn't he from Arizona originally? And he's the best player up in Canada other than McDavid.
Yeah, how about that?
What a time.
Oh, man, the Flyers they drafted a guy and they weren't sure if he'd be able to come over because he's from Russia and there was all these issues. Didn't even have anything to do with the war. But now he's coming over and the comps to this guy are not for the first time. Like this is the most, let me put it to you this way. You guys don't care. We're going to get into baseball right now, but I do care. So I'm going to tell you, it's like the most exciting young Flyers player since Eric Lindros. Think about that.
I was just about to say, so everybody called me Eric Lindros in elementary school. I never played hockey. Not once in my entire life have I ever played hockey, but that was always the thing. ERICLIND. And then they would just started calling me Eric Lindros instead of Eric Lindquist. I was like,
yeah, because cool. Lindros was huge then.
I never got a jersey. I always should have gotten a jersey. That's like the one Philly team I can support. Black and orange, just like my high school team was. It's a good looking. I think it's a really good looking hockey uniform. Sorry, it's not a uniform. It's a sweatshirt, right?
I mean, it's a jersey. I hate them.
Okay.
I don't like it. I don't like the Flyers colors. I don't like any. I don't like anything about it. I love the Phillies.
Okay, you guys have the worst mascots in the entire world. By the way,
have the what?
The mascots of all your pro sports teams are creepy,
gritty. The Fanatic. They're all wild for sure.
Yeah, they want to just take that youth out of the kids right from the get-go. Give them the scariest possible thing to put some hair on the chest and go forth in the world to be a good standing American rather than have anything enjoyable about those. I mean, they're the creepiest mascots, no?
They're weird, man. Gritty's super weird. The Fanatic, I'm not a huge fan. I've met him a few times, up in the club box and it's creepy. It's kind of like, all right, pal, beat it. By the way, if you ever, not that anyone cares, look up how much the Philly Fanatic makes. It's insane, stupid money.
I'm about to hate myself. Hang on.
Stupid.
How much?
Yeah, he makes good money. Happy to have you guys with us. Let's talk. By the way, don't, don't, don't come at us for not talking baseball yet in the comments, please. It's 2:07. We have an hour until lock for a 3-game baseball slate on a Monday, of which one of them starts in the afternoon. We're going to do it right now. Don't worry. And yeah, everybody hating on Paul George coming to Philly. No one wants it. I think it's perfectly fine. Problem is health. And if they're not healthy, if Embiid's not healthy, what's it matter anyway? It was the best of the available options. Whatever.
Paul George is an amazing number 3 to have. What are you?
I know.
Like
That's what
Tyrese
people don't
Maxey, Joel
understand.
Embiid. He's the number 3. He was never like the indie Paul George. The reason it didn't work at the end was that he needed to have a Batman. He's a Robin.
Kawhi's always hurt, like literally always hurt. If your argument is that Embiid's always hurt, fine. I get that. Then don't pick anybody up. But
2 years ago, they would have rolled the West if Kawhi was healthy. I'm pretty positive that Clippers version with Isaiah Hartenstein still on that team come playoff time with him and Zoo in the middle against Jokic. Things could have been very, very, very different if Kawhi's healthy. But you could say that for so many teams. It's truly like such a small window in pocket. Paul George is an amazing number 3. This is a great addition for Philly.
I think so too. Plus, getting past Boston's not going to happen anyway, but it should be a fun season. Anyway.
Boston's ran really well with health. Tatum and Brown not being hurt ever. Yeah, that's pretty unprecedented.
Like even Porzingis goes down and it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like,
but Tatum or Brown, that's the thing.
True, yeah.
Neither one of them have ever ran in. It's the same thing I always said about LeBron too, where it's like LeBron has done an unbelievable job of like avoiding major catastrophic type injuries. And that's what's so impressive to me. Like the longevity, it's a skill. Like it's an actual skill to have longevity like that. Maybe Tatum and Brown keep it that way, but they play pretty physical. They've ran pretty well in the injury department to not have anything crazy looming over them.
Don't disagree. Ready to talk some baseball for the few games that we have on this slate?
Yeah, we got 3 of them. I bet we can get out of here.
Yeah, we won't take up too much of your guys' time. Don't worry. I suppose we already have. But yeah, we can dig into this one a little bit. Canada. What even is Canada Day?
I don't know. It's made up. What is Canada Day? By the way, the Philly Fanatic making $600 an hour is absurd.
Right.
What is Canada Day? The Confederation, 1879, bullshit, and whatever. It's an inferior country.
But $600 an hour for what? 81 home games, and he's working for like probably 5 hours a game when you consider it.
And he doesn't have to talk the whole time. He doesn't have to talk. You just have to like not be a crazy person.
It's the sweetest gig ever. He rides around on an ATV.
It's pretty awesome. He gets to like just do ridiculous stuff, like throw like popcorn on people and not.
He makes over 200,000 a year, and they don't play for like 5 months. It's nuts. All right,
unreal.
Anyway, first things first. This is a 3-game slate with Coors Field. So that is significant.
And 33% of the lineups are out right now. So
yeah,
that's the thing that I'm very curious how many dead lineups we get today, just because people don't show up in the projected. And considering it's Monday, like a travel days, we're going to get some really weird lineups from somewhere, like Milwaukee traveling, playing today. Colorado coming back home. We've got Washington. We got the new kid, James Wood. I'm assuming he's batting 7th or 8th, who isn't in that lineup, who normally would be. I think Jacob Young probably ends up in the outfield still, but we'll see. The Mets just got done with like sitting around all day on Sunday to get obliterated in the top half yesterday after waiting in a clubhouse for 5-6 hours for weather to clear. You could get a weird lineup there and it wouldn't surprise me. So I think there's going to be more dead lineups than a normal MLB slate as a result.
You're probably right. Or people just don't play on this. I don't know. You could be right. They set them and they just forget to come back. Yeah.
Hope so. That's the goal. I'm playing 150. So here we are.
But you've got Austin Comber and Bryce Wilson. This is the last game on the slate. Like you have a 3 o'clock, a 6:45, an 8:40. They're spaced out big time. Both of these guys give up considerable power. Oddly enough, Austin Comber's given up power to lefties as well. Bryce Wilson, the bulk of the power that he allows is to left-handed bats as well. But I mean, when you're just looking at this game, how much of ownership is going to be consumed by these two teams. Like right now, we have Milwaukee with a 29% stack ownership. We can look at individual bats as well. Colorado at 16%, but Houston's still relatively popular against Rodriguez. And then like Washington against Peterson, amazingly, despite only being 3 games, is pretty much unowned. Toronto, very low owned. You're looking at, I wouldn't be surprised by the time we update ownership, like like the last update, that you're getting, close to 50% combined stack ownership between Milwaukee and Colorado.
Yeah, and probably warranted. 36% top stack number for Milwaukee. We got Houston sitting there identical to Colorado up against Wilson. And the main thing that we have there is we have an opener and we have a terrible Colorado team. So it's difficult to really look at and see anything like way off with the fact that Houston's still pretty highly valued up against Toronto there. No Jose Altuve, which lowers the overall salary you're adding to your 5-man there for a lot of those stacks. But yeah, Milwaukee, they could be pulling like 40% by themselves, depending on what contest you're playing in. I'm playing in single entry for a big lineup, and then I'm playing 150 in the mini max like I normally do. And I feel pretty good about kind of doing whatever I want to based on ownership with this slate, and then reacting to the lineups. I do think you're going to look at like maybe 1, 2, 3% dead lineups just from people not evaluating things correctly and being able to realize when these lineups drop who's going to be doing what, where the pinch hitting risk might exist for the platoon in certain spots. I think Milwaukee, that might actually exist with a couple of those bats because of the way that the bullpen shakes out with Colorado having so many righties. And then there'll be, Austin Gomber lefty right from the get-go for 5, potentially 6 innings. I doubt he goes 6, 15.5 outs his prop there. But we do have a lot going on in that Coors Field game that is warranted to have a 55% gross ownership there.
Without question. When you start looking at like how these other games compare, first of all, and I've been saying this for a while, I've been taking, so I do the Underdog video, the Underdog short Monday through Friday. I didn't even do one today. I'm not going to put shit out there that I have, if there's no conviction, but every time, by the way, Underdog sign up promo is fantastic. 50% match up to $250 instantly into your account. Not a drip bonus. You can use it immediately. They have massive best ball contests. Was it 15 or 18 million in total prizes for best ball? Daily drafts for baseball, basketball, football, all of that. The pick'em contest up to 25x your entry fee. If you're not in legal betting states, it's even better. All of that stuff. Like I don't think there's a bigger selection of different game types out there for these type of sites than there is at Underdog. So if you're not there yet, link in the description and in chat. And no matter what you're depositing, you're getting a 50% match up to $250. So instantly injected into your account. It's a great place to start. Great way to build that bankroll out of the gate and play a lot of cool contests. I know you'll be in the best ball streets with me this year.
Oh, I did a million drafts this week, and I did all those $3 ones that existed. Do they still have any of those that are live right now?
Because I just haven't had time yet. They're so time consuming, man. Like I'm going to get into it, but
they sped up the clocks for those. So it was 10, 15, and 20-second increments for 3, 4, and 5. I ended up, actually, I only got 15 in before it filled in number 3.
10-second clock?
10-second clock. Then 15-second clock, 20-second clock, $3 to jump in and join there. Use promo code LOUGHY when you do, LOUGHY. Look at that. It gets you up to $250 back on it. And I got to tell you, these drafts have been very, very soft with the sped up clock because people don't understand week 17 correlation or playoff correlation. And if you can, like, in the back of your head, like I've done so many of these drafts now where it's like Detroit and San Francisco. I know that they're the Monday night game for week 17. And, people are starting to speed up. If you're able to get Amon-Ra St. Brown at like 6, 7, and then you're adding one of Ayuk, one of Samuel, you can get Laporta in the 3rd if you want to be pairing it that way. If you can get in a rhythm of this and use our free projections from Matt Gajewski, I know I have some massively positive EV lineups that will not exist when this contest is still going 2 months from now when people get caught up on best ball. People are jumping in now because NFL rules the world as it should. It is fantastic. But if you want to jump in, draft now, get yourself exposure throughout the summer rather than hitting the panic button come August where it's like, oh, I got to get these drafts in now when everybody else is doing the same thing.
You're not wrong. My highest exposed player last season was 20th round or 18th on Underdog, Tank Dell. I
Mhm.
grabbed Tank Dell. I had him in like 38% of my teams. And then after that first or second preseason game, he got steamed to the point where I didn't draft him once. So
Yep.
yeah, it makes a big, big difference.
Yeah.
Got to avoid some injuries.
Right. And, different times of the year, like Puka Nacua was the guy that I drafted the most the last week of
Right,
the
that's a
best ball
huge one.
streets. Puka Nacua didn't exist in these contests. I didn't know who he was
Me neither.
in June,
Me
July.
neither.
So you don't have to deal with some of that. In Best Ball Mania, you do. I'm a big believer you want to kind of like draft multiple teams throughout the summer to react to news. Hope that, it doesn't fill by by the beginning of August, because if it does, you want to be drafting every single team as soon as possible. But it is such a great strategy game. It's such a fun way of getting NFL exposure. And then come December, also you get a Christmas present. You get the payout for these best ball contests. It is a huge influx to the bankroll at the end of the year. A really nice way of being able to enjoy the NFL season in addition to DFS.
When you forgot about it. Yeah, I know.
Yep. It's a nice feeling.
So back to what I was saying from a DFS perspective, on Underdog, every time Hunter Brown is on the slate, I've just been throwing out higher on fantasy points. Like he just gets disrespected. He's been really, really good. His first 6 or so starts were no good. Has he been a little bit lucky over the past month and a half? You could make that argument. He's been a little lucky. Sure. I know his strand rate is high. His BABIP is low, but he's actually been good. Right. And we all just remember that Kansas City start where he gave up 9 and got like 1 out and it was over. And he's also, look, he's had a pretty fortuitous bounce when it comes to matchups as well lately, but he's been good. Point being is when you look at a guy like Hunter Brown and you look at this Toronto team, it's not a great matchup for Toronto right now. David Peterson hasn't been bad. I know he was chalk against that Marlins, but aside from that, he hasn't been bad. Mackenzie Gore is a good, solid lefty. What I'm getting at is there are definitely ways that you can pivot on a slate like this. We've seen it a million and one times where it's like everyone goes to this one spot, but then baseballs. And, you have the team that shouldn't be the top stack end up being the top stack. But it makes sense why Colorado and Milwaukee is getting this much. If you were to look at it, we can dive into pitching too. We got plenty of time. If you were to look into other spots from a bats perspective, where are we looking outside of Colorado and Milwaukee? I mean, Houston, obviously, but like, are there contrarian spots? You're like, you know what? This might just be the best leverage spot. Maybe the Sims is giving us a spot here as well.
Yeah, I'm really going heavy on Washington. Washington's a pretty big stance for me on today's slate. We've gone with the lowest top stack percentage, but the ownership share is sub 10%. And I do think this is the lineup that has the best chance of coming out absolutely insane. I think that there are iterations where you get a cheap Vargas batting in the top 5 of this lineup at 2.7K on DraftKings. We've had Harold Ramirez batting cleanup for them, 3.2K. But between Young, Ramirez, Lane Thomas, I for sure know will be in this lineup, unless they just give him a day off for some reason. James Wood is now part of the program, the number 3 prospect in baseball, number 1 in the Washington Nationals organization, has an OPS over 1,000 at AAA so far this season, a ridiculous amount of power, hits for average too. It's left on left against David Peterson, which again, I'm thinking he gets buried down in the lineup, but it's more of like what doesn't end up playing from the national side, because I look around the industry, there are so many different projected lineups and different iterations of how this pans up. Like, does Winker end up showing up? Does Luis Garcia end up showing up? I don't think so, with Wood being the lefty that, they're calling up here and making his debut in this spot. Does Meneses end up out there at first base? I don't know, but I do know that Washington, they're the second game up. People will probably be pivoting earlier on, but I just think you might get lower ownership on some of the surprising players from this lineup rather than Milwaukee, Colorado, where people will be backloading those lineups and reacting no matter how they pan out. So for me, Washington, a team that I think just salary-wise works well, and I don't like David Peterson chalk, the highest owned pitcher that we have currently. There's nothing in his peripherals that warrant that being the case other than, oh, he's got a low ERA, which is just stupid.
I get it. For how low owned they are, if you really want to break it down by implied totals, you have Milwaukee, obviously up top, Colorado, and then Houston, all of them above 5. And then 3 teams sitting at 4.1 runs, right? Toronto, New York Mets and Washington. And, you know, if you're going to Toronto, you're going up against Hunter Brown, who, you know, at times has allowed power, but has been, like we said, has been good. You know, the question then becomes there, like, who's the best pitcher on this slate? Is it Mackenzie Gore? Do you tip the hat to Mackenzie Gore here?
Yeah, Mackenzie Gore is the best pitcher, I think, straight up, but he's got a more difficult matchup going up against these revamped Mets.
Yeah.
Francisco Alvarez was out of the lineup yesterday, back in it for today, I would assume. We still don't have it here, but Mackenzie Gore has routinely been better over the course of this season than Hunter Brown, but Hunter Brown, he's going to be my highest owned pitcher. I love this spot. No, you get the scratch of Mr. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He's pretty good at hitting baseballs. I will say Brown has had a pretty easy string of starts. The last 4, he's taken on the Angels and the White Sox on the road. And at home, he's gotten Colorado and Detroit, which is just ridiculous. The price that we had at 7,200 against Detroit, 8K even against Colorado, just ridiculous. Ended up having like 7.5, 8.5K props across the industry. This is not the same kind of a spot, but he's been pretty good at limiting damage against righties. There's only 2 lefties that are in this lineup, and they're not very good. Spencer Horwitz, he's okay, but Dalton Varsho has been only disappointing, sub 4K price tag now as a result. He's batting 5th. If you just avoid the 2 lefties there, he's got a pretty easy string of righties there. George Springer's been playing better of late, but I'm not a huge hot streaks guy. I think you kind of regress towards the median. I like him going up against this Toronto team without Vladdy more than I like Mackenzie Gore going up against a Mets team with Lindor. Nimmo left on left is very good still. JD Martinez, Pete Alonso, and then Alvarez, who's been the second hottest hitter in baseball. Him, Jonathan India, 1-2, however you want to look at it. Just from an average perspective in the month of June, ridiculous stuff from both of them. I am looking at the Mets as a team that I still want to have exposure to against Gore at this kind of ownership, but I'm definitely going to be above and away north of this 50% number on Hunter Brown.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, my 2 highest exposed pitchers right now are Brown and Gore, actually.
Yep, and mine too.
Yeah. 2 lowest exposed pitchers, Peterson and Yariel Rodriguez.
Yep, I'm Yariel Rodriguez is just hard to get to. We've had some pitch count concerns for him where I did say against Kansas City, I was like, I think it was just the fact that, you know, against Cleveland, that I thought he could end up getting extended there. We had the rain so that the start didn't even end up happening for him last time out. So it's technically only the 21st that he's appeared on. He warmed up. He had 52 pitches. I do think that he's somebody who can give you some length, but there's at least the concern in the back of your head where can he really go up against a Houston team here and give them any kind of length? Houston, 18.6% K rate against righties, 113 WRC plus. There is no Altuve, but the overall lineup here, as I plug it in here, John Singleton's come alive, 3K batter now. The top 6 here, all with north of 100 WRC pluses against right-handed pitching. Alex Bregman leading off here today. John Singleton, salary relief. Jordan Alvarez, we know who he is. He's rather good. And Yanner Diaz, he's been a reverse split hitter forever, going back to his AAA days last year and then getting called up tail end of last year. I don't know if that continues, but it's shown that right on right, kind of his preferred way of batting. So for me, Yariel Rodriguez, 4% of him, a big stand against today.
You know, the thing about him is it's not like he's given up a ton of power. You know, he has a 5.8% barrel rate, which, and he hasn't pitched a ton, but he just also hasn't been good. Like, I don't know if does this guy have any pitches that you look at and go like, you know, these are really like plus offerings?
No, you look at the 4-seamer slider, curveball, sinker, split finger that he's got. The best of everything is the curveball, but he can't throw it if he's not ahead in the count. And it only has a 16.7% whip percentage. That's only in 42 pitches so far this season. So I'm not going to read too much into that, but a 173 xWOBA against that pitch is really, really, really good. Problem is he's not getting ahead in some of these counts. Again, very limited sample size on him this season, this go around. So I'm not going to go crazy with that, but 94 on the fastball. Fastball seems like it's going to get hit up at the big league level. Split finger is okay. Yeah, as I work through it, not a big fan of anything that he's really doing.
Well, you know, the other problem is, and when you take a look at this, when you take a look at the Astros and what we know them to be running out there every time, you know, sure, they have some obvious quality from the left side of the plate, but in Alvarez. But aside from that, Bregman, Altuve's not in the lineup.
Yeah, I said Altuve's not in it. Yeah,
I didn't hear you say that. Yeah, I missed
Oh,
that.
you're okay. Yeah,
But,
no, it's one of those spots where Altuve, but I'm not going to say it's not a big deal. But what happens is now you get, instead of like a 5K leadoff hitter that you're trying to make way for in your stacks, you get Mauricio Dubon, first base outfield, 3.1K. Trey Cabbage, small hands, smells like cabbage, 2.3K down there at the bottom of the lineup for him. Chas McCormick, 2.8K. It's a cheap stack. It's very, very cheap. Only Alvarez are you really spending any salary for. Next highest, leadoff Alex Bregman, 4.2K. I mean, they work so well in tandem with Milwaukee stacks. It's ridiculous.
What I was going to say too is he's really only throwing that curveball against lefties too.
Correct. Yep.
So
they have like 11 pitches to righties with it. Yeah.
11 the righties, 31 the lefties. I mean, look, the out pitch is the slider for righties, except it has a 400x WOBA on it. So not great. 532 expected slugging on that. Like it could be a long day for Yariel Rodriguez.
Very much could be.
Yeah. Aside from that, how much of guys like Austin? This is really the question. We talk about leverage spots as far as bats go. How much of guys like Bryce Wilson and Austin Gomber do you get to today on a 3-gamer?
So Bryce Wilson, he'll be coming out of the pen, it sounds like now. They ended up going to this starter, Rob, or the Rob's I can't do it. Anyway, 4K for him. Don't play him. Would doubt that he's going to be somebody who shows up in my lineups as I finish things up. But I'm definitely going to get to some Bryce Wilson. It's just taking on Colorado. We've seen this a lot this season where you'll still get popular pitchers there because of how many times they strike out against righties. 25.7% K rate, only a 77 WRC plus. It is the best hitters park in baseball. The wind's blowing out to right field. I'm still going to have Blackmon and McMahon and Nolan Jones and Elias Diaz, mainly the lefties, and then a good catching option in Elias Diaz, who's a little bit cheaper than William Contreras at 6.3K today. But I'm very much in the ball camp that Bryce Wilson, while he's not good, can at least limit some damage, and he's going to get some extra strikeouts there. I find him to be more appealing at 6K than Austin Gomber, even starting this game at 6,500. Milwaukee's been worse against lefties, which makes absolutely no sense to me. They don't have a single batter in the projected lineup today with over a 200 expected ISO against left-handed pitching on the season. And they continue to overextend against righties in a way that still blows my mind. I don't know how they're that good against righties, and then this bad against lefties. A 93 WRC plus, 21.9% K rate's decent enough. They'll make contact, but only a 124 ISO. 124 ISO with these kind of righties, Rhys Hoskins, William Contreras, number of these guys. It is wild to me that that's the case. It's not going to shy anybody away. And that's where, for me, Milwaukee is a team that they're my highest owned stack, but I'm below the field, sitting at 36%. I've currently got 31% of them in my first run, technically second run, but I think that's going to maintain. I like getting to these pieces. They're very expensive, but with how much Gore and Brown I'm playing and prioritizing those two pitching options today, I'm finding it harder to jam 5-mans over and over again of Milwaukee. A lot more 4-mans for me today for them.
I don't think Bryce Wilson's a crazy play here, though, at all, on a slate like this, because I mean, two things. One, not saying he's particularly good. He has a 215x ISO against lefties, 381x WOBA, but like aside from McMahon, like Blackmon's fine, but like, aside from McMahon, from a power perspective, you're not super concerned about this team. The Colorado Rockies, if you were to take just every team at home this year, you would be like, all right, well, the Rockies are probably at least, skewed much better at home. They still have they're tied for the third highest, essentially tied for the second highest strikeout rate at home, 24.7 and fourth. Boston's 24.9 in second. So really, Seattle's at 29% at home, for what it's worth. But terrible. So let's just say, like, second highest K rate at home. They have an 83 WRC plus at Coors Field this year. That shouldn't even be possible, yet it is. So they've still been awful even when they're at home. And I think, like, yeah, sometimes you're going to see them put up pretty impressive run totals, as anyone would do at Coors. But overall, this team is still stunk in Denver.
Yeah, it's like Bob Barker and Happy Gilmore. These guys suck. Just throw the club over. May he rest in peace. South Dakota legend Bob Barker.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. We don't have many, but we know that Tom Brokaw, him, and the greatest kicker in the history of the NFL, Adam Vinatieri.
Mm-hmm. Bryce Wilson, I think, could probably still throw a good amount of pitches.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He went 6 innings last time out. I thought he would get the actual start. They've been doing the piggyback thing, but it makes sense that they're doing it, mainly because you get to avoid Blackman, McMahon, more than likely, because, they can get 2 innings out of this Zylstra character if they need to. And then the bottom half of this lineup is just K's galore. Nolan Jones, Brendan Rodgers, Michael Toglia, Jake Cave probably going to be in this lineup. I assume he'll be the 9-hole hitter, but it is definitely a spot where Colorado, as much as we want to roster Coors Field in some of these spots, they're the ones that I feel a little bit iffy on this slate. Charlie Blackmon, Sean V letting us know it's his birthday. Well, wouldn't you know it, plus 800 Charlie Blackmon on FanDuel will be on my betting card today. That's for sure.
Because it's his birthday?
No, not because it's his birthday, because I just had to bring that up because Sean V gave me all the more ammunition to just fire this up already.
Gotcha.
I hate that I'm actually betting it now because I saw that.
Well, you know what? Bryce Wilson gives up a ton of power to lefties. So if I'm doing it, I would much prefer it be on that side. Like 1.05 home runs per 9 to righties. It's really not a bad mark at all. Like that's pretty good. 2.03 to lefties. So yeah, a lot of power.
273 ISO. Or sorry, where did it go? It just disappeared.
215 X ISO. I know that much.
Yeah, 215 X ISO, 224 actual ISO with a 17.8 degree average launch angle. Like, what are we doing here, bro?
Yeah. And I mean, 142 batters faced. So it's not like, we're lacking in sample size this year. Yeah, he's struggled with them for sure. 378 WOBA. Yeah. So I don't hate it. Amazingly, McMahon seems to only hit homers against lefties, but no, he hits them against righties too. But somehow, I think last I looked, McMahon has the highest ISO on Colorado against lefties, aside from anyone else.
Let me put this Rob Zylstra character. I should learn how to say this. I've never had an issue looking at a name and being able to say it. Rob Zastrazini. I've never seen a name like this. Nastrazin. Look at his name and tell me how to say it. I have no clue.
Zastrinzi? Oh.
It's playing with my brain. I can't do it.
Zastrizny, right?
Zastrizny. Okay, there we go. Now that I hear it, I can see it. But oh my lord.
Well, I don't even know if I'm right.
I don't. That's just absurd. 5 home runs for Ryan McMahon against lefties on the season. 226 expected ISO. He's good against all.
By the way, I just looked it up on Baseball Reference. It is. It's Zastrizny.
Zastrizny. Okay. Very nice. Zastrizzle my nizzle.
Is it Polish?
Yeah, that's got to be. Clay Thompson, 50 million, 3-year, 50 million. Nice job, Mavs. Way to go, guys.
Oh, Mavs.
Damn. That's going to be so weird to see him in a not Golden State uniform.
Creepy almost, yeah.
Yeah.
So
don't they already have Tim Hardaway Jr. to play no defense?
What were you saying about Rob Zastrizny? I got to get you back on track here.
Oh, no, I was just saying that he's a lefty going up left on left. Ryan McMahon, 226 expected ISO, 4.3 degree launch angle isn't very good, but still has 5 home runs because he's averaging a 92.8 mile per hour exit velocity against those humans. That's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, look, when it comes to slates like this, it's not, we're talking about players and stacks and pitchers that we would not even mention if this were a regular, like say this were tomorrow and half of these guys were, we wouldn't be talking about, rostering Bryce Wilson. Like it just,
no.
But I will say, I would rather have, like, outside of Mackenzie Gore and Hunter Brown, Wilson, I think, is probably my 3.
He's, I think, going to be my 3. I'm just so vehemently against David Peterson's ownership that, like, If he burns me, he burns me. Yariel Rodriguez, I can't do it. Houston's my second highest owned stack. And Austin Gomber is god awful. No, thank you.
Yeah, he's not good at all. Right.
This slate is wild. People asking also about, yeah, you can absolutely have a batter or two up against your pitchers today. I don't have any issue with it. I'm kind of looking through the Sims tool at individual lineups and seeing which ones I have a little bit of overlap with. It's naturally going to happen when there's only 3 games on a slate and you're trying to make salary constraints work. Like up against Bryce Wilson, I still have some Charlie Blackmon. I still have some Ryan McMahon. I still have some of those Colorado bats as well. I don't want to go crazy and have like 3 or 4 or anything, but 1. And then on the odd event, you get like a second one that comes along for it to make it work salary wise. Just fine with me today.
Eric said, I can get Blackmon to homer at plus 515. Yeah, don't do that.
That's horrible.
I don't, either you're at like Hard Rock in Florida or you're on Fliff or something, one of those social books. But no, I mean, look, when you have, and by the way, just go on Odd Shopper for free and go into the live odds tool and you can find like the best odds on all. You can shop the odds really quickly. Definitely do that. You know, even there's plenty of times where if I like a guy to homer, Eric, and like, you know, a book that I can't get anything down on or isn't available to me, you know, they have it at like plus 500 and I have to grab it at plus 470. Fine. Fine. But if it's 8-1 and your best is 5-1, that's long run. That's just killing your profits big time. Like you think about that for a second. Think if you were to even put I was going to say 100, but think about a $10 bet on that. Like what? 10 to win 80 or 10 to win 50. It's just such a massive difference.
Yeah, it's like paying for video games back in the N64 days when it was $39.99. And now video games are what? $60 a pop sometimes? That's absurd. Like just even for the download of it.
I haven't bought one since Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, it's such a good game.
And the next one I'll buy is the new GTA.
I bought the new Zelda. I was playing that. Like
someone told me a World War II Call of Duty's coming out. I'll play that. I don't like the modern ones, but I'm all about the World War II. I love World War II. It's the best.
World War II is wild. Happy 4th of July, everybody. America.
Yeah, that's commemorating the victory in World War II, correct?
I don't think that's how
what are you saying here?
No, I'm just saying. No, I'm just saying America, just talking about the greatness that is.
Oh, I got you. All right, fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. I thought some way you were tying one to the other.
When was Normandy? It was like, wasn't it a December or something? Wasn't it really, really cold?
No, June.
I knew you would know.
Pearl Harbor was December, but that was in Hawaii, so it wouldn't have been cold there.
No.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't a lot of fun though.
What? No, I can't imagine they enjoyed it. No, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Could have totally been prevented too.
Yeah. Just. Yeah.
It's true,
that movie
man.
Sucks.
What'd you say?
Pearl Harbor, the movie sucks.
Terrible. However, there's some other like good documentaries out there.
Yeah. They're definitely.
Admiral, I think his name was like Husband. His first name was Husband Kimmel or something.
Have you ever been to the USS Arizona?
They called him and were like, hey, we don't know what's showing up on the radar. And he thought it was our own.
Oh.
He thought it was our own coming back.
It's not ideal.
Little did they know it was like 325 Japanese planes. They sent everything.
They sent everything. It also came out of nowhere. I mean, that nobody was expecting anything like that.
Yeah.
It was heightened, but
watch the documentaries. The movie's garbage, of course.
Yeah.
The documentaries.
I've been to the USS Arizona.
I have not.
Pretty insane. It's pretty insane. It's like still leaking oil from what I understand.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they had a bunch that were getting repaired in another harbor. That's why it could have been way worse. Yeah. Could have been crazy.
Unreal.
What the hell were the Japanese thinking? You know what I mean?
It was crazy. But we got yeah. Well, anyway, these are the detours you take on a 3-game slate.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it is. And yeah, Michael, there were a ton of warnings. Just nothing happened. They're like, yeah, we're good. Crazy. Oops. Anyway, I mean, I think we've covered a lot of this. I guess the only other question to get into would be, what type of maybe potential 3-game strategies do we play here from a game theory standpoint that we wouldn't really consider on a larger slate? You mentioned, playing a hitter or two against the pitcher. I don't think it's nuts, especially considering like you get a solo shot or whatever. Or what if pitching just ends up not being good and the 13 that you get from that guy, even though he gives up a few runs, is enough? So I don't think it's crazy, but anything else that you look to do on a slate like this that's unique?
Yeah, so I think it's also going to depend on how the lineups come out. Sometimes you might get a different projected lineup, and I'll be more comfortable to just have one batter going up against my pitcher as a result of that, where I just need to make the salary work or something of that nature. This is also just a late swap NBA type slate where you get staggered starts. And so you're able to see what the ownership was on Hunter Brown and use that to inform how owned we think David Peterson and Mackenzie Gore are going to be. Because if it shakes out different ways in different contests, like I could see Hunter Brown being a little bit more popular without Vladdy in this lineup today, and also how good he's been over the course of the last 4 starts that he's had. But then you've also got Milwaukee and Coors. You want to be very, very aware of what has gone off, what you're going to be doing. And then as far as the stack types go, that's where the Sims tool does all the work for me these days. I don't have to work overly hard to try to get unique in the stack types. Like I'm looking at my top ROI stacks. I have 5-2, 5-2, and then it goes 3-2-2, Washington, Milwaukee, Toronto. What a wild, wild stack combination to be looking at in a 3-2-2. I would never be hand building out something like that, but the Sims tool is taking 5,000 lineups. It's taking the pool and it's helping you identify where you might be able to get some edge on the field. I will say Austin Gomber, not going to be a complete write-off for me. I had him down like 4% earlier. I think that's what his ownership was. I've actually got him around 15% now, mainly because Milwaukee, I'm a little bit underweight to him. What's one way that ends up panning out for you? Austin Gomber just survives this one. He's got a 15.5 out prop, gives up 2 earned runs. If he can find 4 or 5 strikeouts, that'd be a little bit of an outlier as well. But definitely not on a 3-game slate, something where I'm like immune to getting away from a pitcher other than David Peterson in this current ownership. I only have 14% of him, and I think these are the lineups I'm going to upload. It is what it is. I'm done with it.
I get it. And another thing too, the Sims has absolutely been stellar for these small slates.
Mm-hmm.
And usually you look at it and you go, oh no, right? Like you look at it. I have so many examples. Like I always bring up the Hogan Harris one. We had people in chat being like, why the hell is the Sims giving me Hogan Harris? He was the best pitcher on the slate. Yeah. Like, why am I not getting any Scooble lineups? Scooble ended up getting rock. Obviously, it's not projecting that Sims, or that like a guy such as Tarek Scooble is going to get rocked, but it's just the way that you're creating leverage, looking at like massive ownership going to certain spots, factoring in salary and all of that stuff. You're just going to get weird stuff on these slates. But the question is like, are you trying to cash or are you trying to win? Right. And if you're trying to win, you're going to have to do some unique stuff. I will say though, with the Sims exposures that I'm getting, and this happens often on these 3-game slates, stack exposure is actually very spread out for me. Like I'm not getting a massive amount 5-man exposures to really anybody. Yes, Milwaukee and Colorado are up top, but not by a ton. Like, I'm pretty much similar ballpark with Houston. And I will say Hunter Brown's been good, but I am getting Toronto, particularly 3-man Toronto stacks, a good amount of that. And I don't think it's all that nuts because, just looking at this, that Hunter Brown's going to be 50% owned. Mackenzie Gore is going to be 50% owned. Peterson's going to be higher than that. So these guys aren't Zach Wheeler and these guys are good, but it's not like Glass now, Wheeler, and throw whoever else you want into the mix, just like elite, true Chris Sale type studs. These guys are fine, but they're all liable to get lit up today. That's what makes this interesting.
Yeah. I mean, you get an 11.5 total. You get prospects getting called up that kind of put Washington into flux. You have a Mets team that's been hot taking on Mackenzie Gore coming off of a blow up. You have Hunter Brown, where he's finally facing some kind of a difficult matchup, albeit now without their best hitter. You have so many different spots where some parity exists. For me, it's just also, what am I happy accepting in terms of the chalk? What am I not happy accepting? I'm pretty happy accepting Hunter Brown without Vladdy in this lineup, and whatever happens. I'm not very excited be rostering David Peterson here up against Washington. I understand the implied total lower there at 4, lowest implied total on the slate, but yet Washington has some viability. Lane Thomas, one of my favorite one-off batters for the entire slate, just absolute lefty killer, taking on a lefty that's giving up tons of hard hit, tons of contact. Looking at his stuff, 199 expected ISO is way, way worse than his 111 expected ISO against lefties. 170 expected ISO, way higher than his 156 actual ISO against righties. And Lane Thomas, 237 expected ISO and 237 actual ISO in 66 plate appearances this season against lefties. At the deadline last season, people were trying to acquire him as a platoon guy. The Dodgers were. They ended up not pulling the trigger on it. He's proven he's more than just a platoon guy, but anytime he gets to take on a lefty, I feel like I'm way over the field on him.
I get it. Let's wrap it up with this. Einsteinium, what would you do in single entry? You know, Greg always talks about this, like single entry, particularly on small slates, provide some really good spots to get different. And you don't have to worry, particularly in these smaller field single entry spots, about a lot of the field actually going to those lesser owned spots, because you don't have 150 entries to spray at it.
Right. And for me, I'm going Washington and then Houston secondary stack. I am playing 5-man. I'm not playing any batter against my pitchers in this. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to capitalize on the main leverage opportunity I think exists on the slate. And it's with David Peterson. His ownership is just way too high for my liking based on his underlying numbers. It would appear people, and this has happened a number of times this year, I'm not sure what the impetus is. Maybe you can help me, Loughy, but feels like if a guy has a low ERA, they end up popular in DFS for no other reason other than they have a low ERA. Is that off base?
I don't think so. No, I don't know if I've dug into it as much as you have, but I've definitely seen it. I also can't, I don't know, maybe it has something to do with pricing. I don't know. Like Hunter Brown's ERA
3.67 ERA, 6.12 expected ERA. Like, come on. David Peterson's going to be chalk on this slate. I have to be playing Washington in single entry. So yeah, I think they're probably the best leverage stack that exists for single entry purposes. For large field, you don't have to get that much of them over the field. Again, they are my 4th highest owned stack. I have more of them than I have Toronto. Toronto's I've got the least of. And then Colorado is actually getting trimmed 2nd, which is wild to me. Has more to do with like the Mets, the potential leverage you get up against Mackenzie Gore as well, 12.2% top stack percentage. And again, it's going to matter how these lineups roll out, who we get catching for this Milwaukee one. It's basically like these are going to be Thursday potentially looking lineups where you get Eric Haas maybe catching, and for Milwaukee you don't get Contreras. You could get him DHing up there, and then you got to pick between 2 catchers. And there's going to be some weird stuff that ends up coming with these lineups as they start rolling out. So be paying attention to the news for it. But for single entry today, definitely like Washington, and then Houston. There's just so many cheap pieces, whether it's, John Singleton, the back half of that entire lineup, you could make a case for it. Myers is going to be very popular at 3,200 batting second. Lots of different salary savers that I really like.
By the way, if you guys did want to check the Sims tools out, or any of our tools, lineup generator for that matter, links to everything in the description and in chat. Great time to do it too, because tomorrow, huge slate. Wednesday, you're going to have 2 slates. Thursday, they might have 3 slates. Like I was looking at the times for those games. You're starting at 11:30 Eastern, going throughout the entire day with 15 games. Friday, a big slate. Saturday, then Sunday, you got the main slate. You've got the afternoon slate. The Sims works for all of those slates, right? Like any slate you can think of, even the, like the 6 p.m. slates and stuff like that. So yeah, if you're not there and you want to check it out, no better way to build better lineups quickly with a very, very limited learning curve whatsoever. Plus we got tutorials for you. And if you wanted to get in like a more cost-effective way, maybe you're not playing as much, but you love this and you're looking for something to kind of help you along the way, even though you could throw your own feedback, lock players, swap players, all that, the lineup generator is down there too. So if you have questions, hit us up, jump in the Discord, say hello. Happy to help you out, but definitely come check. Perfect week to check out, a week of the Sims or the lineup generator. I think you'll love it. Anyway, follow Eric Lindquist on Twitter, me @Loughy_D. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Small slate, but we do what we can. Tomorrow, a lot of games. We'll see you back here bright and early. Strategy show, then live before lock. Peace.